Now this question says there are some sweets in a bag. 18 of the sweets are toffees, 12 of the sweets are mints. Write down the ratio of the number of toffees to the number of mints. Now this brings us to the topic ratio. Now what is ratio? Ratio is just a relationship or a comparison between two quantities. Comparison between two quantities. Okay, that it has to be, number one, the basic rule is that there has to be two quantities you are comparing. You can't just find a ratio for one quantity. No. Okay, it has to be two quantities, and then while comparing them, you have to ensure that the quantity now expressed in a fraction form is reduced in its lowest term. That's ensure that the quantity is reduced to its lowest term. For example, let's say we are comparing 2 oranges to 10 grapes. Okay, now to find their ratio is 2:10. For every 2 oranges you have 10 grapes. For every 2 oranges you have 10 grapes. That's actually what ratio means. Now we'll realize that from the second rule that we gave, that will ensure that the quantity is reduced to its lowest term, that this is not reduced to its lowest term because 2 can actually divide this and divide this. So 2 dividing this is 1:2, then 2 dividing this is 5. Okay, that means for every 1 orange you have 5 grapes. For every 1 orange you have 5 grapes. So this has been reduced to its lowest term. Now that's what I'm talking about when I said ensure that it has been reduced to its lowest term. That's for the quantity. Now let's get back to the question. The question said that there are some sweets in a bag. 18 are toffees, and then 12 are mints. Now we're asked to find the ratio of the number of toffees to the number of mints. Now we are told that we had 18 toffees. Okay, toffees is to 12 mints. Okay, now from this relationship you find out that this when you're comparing this to this, it does not reduce to its lowest term because 2 could divide this and divide this, 3 could divide this and divide this. So let's divide with 2 first of all. 2 dividing this is 6 toffees. Is to 2 dividing this is 6 mints. Okay, rather 2 dividing this is 9. Rather, pardon me for the error. Now 2 won't divide this equally without a remainder. Okay, but 2 will go into this without a remainder. So let's try 3. Now 3 dividing this now is going to give you 3 toffees. Is to 3 dividing this is going to give you 2 mints. So now this is the ratio between toffee and mint. Okay, and the second part of the question says that there are some oranges and apples in a box. Okay, the total number of oranges and apples gives you 54. Okay, and then we're given that the ratio of oranges to apple is 1:5. And now we are asked to work out the number of apples in the box. Now from the idea of ratio now that we're given, we'll see that this value given was reduced to its lowest term, 1:5. Okay, now let's go into another area of ratio. When comparing ratios, okay, we will always have in mind that for this one that they say ratio of oranges to apple, for every 1 orange we'll have 5 apples in the box. For every one orange you have 5 apples. For every one orange you have 5 apples. Okay, now let's first, when you're given this kind of question, you first calculate the total ratio, and that's 1 plus 5, and that is 6. Okay, now this 6 represents the total ratio of oranges and apples. Now if you want to find the real number of oranges in that box, okay, we're going to use the ratio of oranges in the box and divide it with the total ratio of oranges and apples, and then we'll multiply by the mean number of oranges and apples in the box. Now let's go this way. For the oranges, we'll have that the ratio of orange in the box is 1, given here, and then the total number of oranges and apples in the box is 6. 1 divided by 6. Okay, then times the total number, that's the actual number, the real number of oranges and apples in the box is 54, so we'll have to multiply by 54. Now the real concept behind this is that we want to find out the ratio, that's that ratio 1, ratio of oranges, when you're comparing to the total number of ratio of oranges and apples. Okay, then we're now finding out that ratio in the real quantity. Now 54 is the real number of oranges and apples in the box, and 6 is the ratio, as in the total number of ratio of oranges and apples. Now we're now finding out 1 out of that 6, 1 out of the total ratio. Then we're now finding out this one inside the main number. Now so doing this cancels, this is 9. So the real number of oranges in that box is 9, though the ratio is 1. Okay, the ratio is 1, but the real number is 9. That's how we actually solve that. Then for apples, we'll either do it 2 ways. It's either we'll do the real number of oranges and apples, that's 54, minus the real number of oranges in the box, and that's 9. When you do that, you have 45. Or we still go the same way that we went the first time and say, okay, what's the ratio of apples in the box? That's 5. What's the total ratio of apples and oranges? And that's 6. Now what's the real number of apples and oranges? And that's 54. So when you divide that, it's going to be 9 times this, that's 45. So we still got the same 45 apples, please. This is 9 oranges. So we still got the same value that we got when we did this. Both of them are virtually the same thing, but if we had oranges, apples, and maybe mangoes, okay, then we have to calculate 1 by 1. That's from the given ratio for each of them. The basic thing you just have to do is to find the total ratio, okay, and this we did by adding 1 plus 5, and that was 6. Then after getting the total ratio, we now start finding out individually the ratio of each quantity given divided by the total ratio, then times the real number of quantities. So that's it for ratio.